Hi, sixth grade. I'm excited to be coming to you guys for your last mini lesson of this week. And yeah, I know it's already Wednesday and we're halfway through the week, but tomorrow will be your catch-up day. So Thursday, you'll have no cool down, no activities. You'll just have one review activity on Khan Academy. And that's designed to give you some time to catch up on the 6 cool downs that we've already completed and make sure that all of your feedback is fixed to be green. And then Friday, we'll have an assessment day for quizzes 1 and quizzes 2 on geometry vocabulary and then calculating area. So it should be a nice review, a time for you to practice. And when you log into quizzes, assuming all your technology is working fine and there's no glitches with what I've assigned you, you should just sign in with your first and last name and you can take those assignments and I will see the feedback on quizzes and give you your yellows, or greens or reds, depending on how well you guys do. So I'm looking forward to seeing your work for the rest of the week. To make sure you're ready, we're going to do a short, quick recap of the last 5 days and compare parallelograms and triangles. So let's get started. I have 2 figures here on the board, parallelogram and triangle, and I've labeled various parts of them, and I did that intentionally so that it's not super clear exactly what is base and what is height. But there's a lot of different numbers on the figure and it's your job to decide what base and what height is. Now, the reason why we want to know what base and height is because we know they're critical to our formula. If you remember, for a parallelogram, to find the area or the inside, we're going to use the formula base times height. Now, I know we practiced some strategies in the beginning of the unit of decomposing and rearranging pieces, and that's still very valuable and important information, but for the sake of being quick with our work, and especially for today's cool down, you're going to need to remember how to find base and height and then multiply. So looking at my figure, I have this side is 9, this side is 15, and then there's a measurement here from top to bottom, that's 10. I want you to just take a second and look at this figure and see what you believe to be the base and what you believe to be the height. Good. If you did this correctly, you would have seen pretty easily, right, that the base is 9. And the reason that we choose our base to be 9 is because I have 2 values going up, and I'm looking to figure out which one is going to stem perfectly up in a 90-degree angle to form my height off of this one-sided base. So if my base is 9, is my height 15 or is my height 10? Now, if you remember in our beginning when we decomposed our figures, we would have cut this piece, placed it here, and closed it in to be a rectangle. And the side that measured the height, going from top to bottom, was going to be our length multiplied by our width. So this diagonal, although it is nice and long and might feel like height, is not height. That's not the height. Because the height is measuring from the base up to the very top of my figure. So this value of 10 is my height. So following my formula, I know my base is 9 and my height is 10. So the area of my parallelogram must be 90. Simple enough, right? Now triangles, they bounce right off of this concept of parallelograms because we recognize that if we look at a triangle, it is half of a parallelogram, which is how we came to our formula of finding out that area is base times height, all of that divided by 2. Some of you saw that formula that I put on my PowerPoint yesterday is 1/2 times base times height, and that's the same exact thing, right? Dividing by 2 and multiplying by 1/2 get us the same result, right? We're cutting it in half. We're taking half of it. And so some of you might just think of that as cutting in 2 parts, and some of you might think of that as multiplying by half of the figure. Whichever way works for you, this is the way I'm going to write my formula today. So, same thing over here. I have 3 things labeled on my triangle. I have two sides labeled 15 and 9, and then I have this dotted line of 3. I want you just to take a second and look at the figure and decide what would be base and what would be height. Good. Well, a lot of you remember and are reminded by our parallelogram that any one of these sides on a triangle could be our base, as long as the height is what is coming off of that side to the other side, right? So on this triangle, 9 could be my base, or 15 could be my base. The thing that's going to decide, based on the information that's given to me, is can I find from this side to the opposite end to find the height of the triangle, or can I go from this side to the opposite side of my triangle and find the height of the triangle going this direction? Well, if you look, the dotted line that's represented here, 3, is going from this piece up to what is equal to the top of this triangle. So this is literally the height of the triangle, especially if you can tilt your head. If this is the bottom or the base, then the height of the triangle going this direction is 3. So for this situation, we're going to make 15 my base and 3 will be my height. Now, 9 could have been my base if we knew how much the value was from 9 to this tip. But we don't have that number. They didn't give it to us. So we're just going to roll with the 15 and the 3. Okay? So if I know base is 15 times 3, which is my height. I realize there's an error here. This should be 6. I apologize. That was my fault. 15 times 6. So if I multiply here, my base is 15. My height, same place, I just put the wrong number, would be 6. 15 times 6 gives me 90. And I'm going to take that value and I'm going to divide it by 2. So thinking 90 divided by 2, and that gives me 45. So the area of this triangle is 45. Now, I want you to notice something about the two figures that we chose. If I were to draw this figure out, this triangle out, and if I were to double it, right? If I were to double it, then I could create a duplicate of this parallelogram because I know I would double it, meaning this other side would be worth 45. 45 and 45 together would make 90. Just like here, if I wanted to, I could cut this parallelogram in half, and that would make this piece 45 and this piece 45. So these two figures are actually related, right, based on the values that we've been given. And you can even see that here, right? This side and this side both matches 15. This base is 9, which means these two bases would be 9. And so when I'm working towards this end, this is to remind me that triangles, right, have the unique part of the formula where we are dividing by 2. It's half of parallelograms. And so, granted, these figures don't always have to be corresponding. They don't always have to be linked. But I purposely chose an example for you where you would be reminded that triangles are special and that I take the parallelograms formula and I have to divide it by 2. So for some of you who struggled on your cool downs yesterday, a lot of the common mistakes I saw were because you were not dividing by 2 when you were finishing out your formula. So make sure that you do not get these two confused today as you're working through some different types of figures and looking towards your cool down, which has parallelograms on it today. So I want you guys to enjoy. If you have any questions at all, the next couple of days, these days to catch up and assess are for you to be able to ask questions and clarify any misconceptions that you have. So remember, you can always reach out to me, GoGuardian, Google Classroom. You can email me, you can text me, you can call me, you can Google Hangout me, you can FaceTime me. You have no excuse. You can get in touch with me in so many ways, and I'm looking forward to hearing back from all of you. Okay? Have a great and happy Wednesday.